Hello everyone, I'm Bruffy1322 and this video is going to show the fastest fully upgraded muscle cars in terms of top speed. We're quickly going to go over the slowest vehicles right now, and as always the position counter is in the top left with the actual top speed the car achieved in the top right. This video only focuses on straight line performance, so if you're interested in racing where braking, cornering and acceleration are all relevant, check the link in the description for the lap time testing series. And if you want to know more information about this testing, including the extent to which it's accurate and how useful it is for you personally, have a read of the full description as everything that you need is in there. So as we saw with the lap time testing video yesterday, there are 40 vehicles in the muscle cars class, and there's a wide range of different types of vehicles within that, and there's quite a few of them that are pretty poor in terms of speed, both in terms of top speed and in terms of lap time as well. And as you're seeing here, we're seeing the worst of them here. All of these vehicles that we've seen so far don't even break the 100 mph barrier, which is incredibly slow, very slow for these vehicles. And you know, if you're wanting to get from point A to point B in any reasonable amount of time, you shouldn't be using anything in the bottom half of this class because they're just so slow. Now the Voodoo Custom here, I'll just point out, it is slightly quicker than the regular Voodoo. It's one of the very few vehicles that you actually upgrade at Benny's in terms of the lowriders that does get quicker, because most of them are the same. And as you're seeing here in 32nd place with the Moonbeam, that shares the exact same top speed as the Moonbeam Custom. The only reason that the Moonbeam Custom is quicker around a regular circuit is because the tire on the back, that's a modification in Los Santos Customs, that actually increases traction just like a spoiler, so it gets higher cornering speeds and improves its lap time. But other than that small difference between them, they are exactly the same under the hood. Coming into the top 30 now, we've got the Picador with 102.5, and we saw the Rat Truck as well. None of these are that great. It's very difficult to really talk about all of these vehicles, especially since obviously yesterday with the lap time testing video I talked about them as much as I really could. But with such a huge class like this and so many vehicles that are essentially copies of each other, you know, you've got the Faction Custom Donk. I just realized that I said we saw the Rat Truck when actually it was the Rat Loader, because we're seeing the Rat Truck here. You know, the Rat Truck and the Rat Loader are pretty much the same vehicle. We've got two versions of the Moonbeam, two versions of the Voodoo, the two versions of the Chino, three versions of a Vego. There's a lot of vehicles that they're just not all that special, they don't stand out. Unlike, for example, the sports class, which has 44 vehicles, and the vast majority of them are at least somewhat unique. The muscles class definitely doesn't have that, and it could very much have done with, frankly, just not having a lot of the vehicles that are in here. And if you're going to add lowriders, you know, don't give us a custom version and a regular version, just give us the lowrider version. But you know, as we saw there, the Blade, that's probably the highest up in terms of lap time that is so far down in terms of top speed. The Blade does not have a very good top speed, so if that's a vehicle that you'd like to use in regular races, don't use it in high top speed races, because it has very good acceleration but its top speed isn't there. Same with the Stallion that we saw in 21st place, and obviously the Faction and the Faction Custom. Like I was just saying, two vehicles that are pretty much exactly the same with 110.8 mph lap time. They're exact top speed, sorry, they're exactly the same in terms of top speed. Not an awful lot to really say about them. So in 18th place we've got the Sabre Turbo. This is where we start to get a little bit interesting. There's a bit more to talk about with the top 20 as opposed to the bottom 20. The Sabre Turbo with 110.8, that's still not that great of a lap time. It's obviously the same as the Faction and the Faction Custom. And just to point out again that when we do have ties in terms of cars sharing the same top speed, the lap time that they get around the track is what determines which gets a higher position. So the Sabre Turbo, the Vigero, not too bad top speeds, but same with the Dukes, 112.5. If you compare these to sports cars, they're not great at all, and we're already getting into the top 15, and they're pretty slow in terms of top speed. So, you know, like I said, if you're wanting to go from point A to point B very quickly, a muscle car isn't really the best option to use with that until we get to the very top end of the class. As we'll see, there is a huge range of top speeds in this class, and it's pretty incredible that we have such a wide variety of different vehicles in one class that, you know, with the sports class, for example, we saw a lot of vehicles that all shared very similar top speeds. That is definitely not the case with the muscle cars class. So here in 14th and 15th place, we've got the two Buccaneers, again exactly the same vehicles, they share exactly the same top speed. And then in 13th place, we've got the Phoenix. Not too bad from the Phoenix, pretty impressive that it gets up there in 13th place. It's one of those cars that it's, you know, 130 miles per hour, it's not going to be anything special. It's way off the top speed of the ultimate best in the class, but it's often forgotten about, the Phoenix, I think, and it's still a relatively decent vehicle overall. Now 12th place, we've got the Gauntlet. Again, nothing too special about it, 113.3, and was closing in on the top 10. The Gauntlet at least has has a better position than what it does around the track, because it's not having to rely on having a spoiler or anything like that. The fact that it doesn't get a spoiler is what, you know, really hurts the Gauntlet in normal races. Just ahead of it in 11th place, we've got the Burgershot Stallion with 113.3 miles per hour. Not too bad. Again, not an awful lot to say, because these top speeds ultimately can't compete with most of the vehicles in the game in terms of sports and supercars, obviously, but also in terms of the top cars in this class. As we see when we get to pretty much the top 5, that's what you want to really pay attention to. But in 10th place, sneaking into the top 10, is the Lurcher. Quite interesting that this vehicle can make it into the top 10 with 114.3. It's pretty difficult to drive around a regular circuit, and it's not going to give you a very good lap time, but its top speed in the class isn't all that bad. And in 9th place, we've got the Duke of Death, 114.3, sharing exactly the same lap time with the Lurcher. Again, this is you can only access this vehicle in single player, like I said in the lap time testing video yesterday, but it doesn't have too bad of a top speed, and it's not too bad of a vehicle to use if you are in single player and you have access to this vehicle, especially considering it's, you know, well armored and all that kind of stuff. And then in 8th place, we've got the Coquette Blackfin. These are the sort of the better vehicles in the class. You know, when you get to the top 10 in any of these lists, we're starting to get some competent vehicles, but we are still a good portion of top speed off the ultimate best. And like I said, there's a big range even within the top 10, which is pretty remarkable to see. Now in 7th place, we've got the Redwood Gauntlet. Does significantly better than the regular Gauntlet. 117.3 is a very respectable top speed actually, and this is where we're starting to see some decent top speeds coming from these cars. And I think this is why some of the best muscle cars in the game are so difficult to drive, because you've got high top speeds, the same top speeds that you see from sports cars and some supercars, but the traction that the vehicles have, it is a lot lower. So you're going at similar speeds when you're going at top speed, but they're a lot harder to slow down and then control when it comes to cornering. So that's why they're such a difficult class to race in and take a lot more skill than sort of supercars or sports cars. But in 6th place here, we've got the Slam Van Custom, obviously 117.5, only a little bit quicker than what we just saw. And then in 5th place, we've got the first of the two Ruiners. No prizes for guessing what we're going to be seeing in 4th place. But yeah, the Ruiner 2000 has a pretty respectable top speed of 118.8 miles per hour. Very decent, you know, not too bad. It is exactly the same as what we'll see in 4th place from the regular Ruiner as well. So, you know, we saw from the video yesterday that the regular Ruiner is slightly quicker around the track in terms of cornering, but, you know, the regular Ruiner doesn't have missiles and machine guns and a parachute. So the Ruiner 2000, if you do get that car for free mode, it will give you at least a decent top speed to get from A to B relatively quickly. But if it was usable in muscle car races, it would still be, you know, it's only in 5th place, and the regular Ruiner would actually be a better option. Now in 3rd place, the top 3. Now the top 3 here are remarkably similar. The actual makeup of the top 3 is exactly the same as the lap time testing video that we saw yesterday. So in 3rd place, we've got the Dominator. This is the regular version of the Dominator with a top speed of 120.3 miles per hour. The first vehicle to break that 120 mile per hour barrier, and that is starting to now get quicker than some sports cars and supercars. In 2nd place, we've got the Sabre Turbo Custom with a top speed of 121.3 miles per hour, slightly quicker than the regular Dominator, and taking into account the fact that it has very good cornering in comparison to all of the other muscle cars, you can see why the Sabre Turbo Custom was so dominant when it was first released. but ultimately it is only in second place because our number one vehicle in terms of top speed for the Muscles class is the Pisswasser Dominator once again, with an incredible top speed of 124.5 miles per hour. Fun fact, that is actually quicker than every single sports car in the game by a significant margin for most sports cars, but it's actually also quicker than the fastest sports car in the game as well in terms of top speed. So again, that is why this is so good, and it can take it to the Sabre Turbo Custom in regular races despite it not really having the cornering ability of the Sabre Turbo Custom. And that's also why it's so difficult to drive, because it is such a fast vehicle in a straight line, but it doesn't have the traction to match it that other sort of sports cars and supercars do. And that 124.5 mile per hour top speed of the Pisswasser Dominator is absolutely insane, and it could definitely take it to, you know, some supercars and every single sports car in the game, like I said. So it is one of the fastest vehicles in the entire game in terms of top speed and straight line performance. Very, very good, considering it is ultimately in the muscles cars class, it is just a muscle car. But ultimately it does dominate everything else in the class, and then you can't really look to anything other than the Pisswasser Dominator if you're doing a long highway race or a high top speed race in the muscle cars class. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this class. It is difficult to talk about it because the muscles class has so many vehicles and so many of them that they're just not all that interesting, to be honest, but we have managed to get through it. We've tested every single vehicle, both in terms of lap time and top speed, and hopefully you guys have found some interesting information for it. This is only the start. Obviously, we've got all the other classes to come, but the bulk of the work at this point with the main classes has been done, so it's just the rest of them to go. Thank you guys so much for watching. That is pretty much it. Obviously, remember to read the description for more info, comment with your thoughts, like the video if you enjoyed or found it helpful, and obviously subscribe for more. Thank you all so much for watching. I really, really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.